In 2002, Harley-Davidson, a brand famous for doing things one way and one way only, announced something that no one saw coming. This is the company built on air-cooled engines, chrome-heavy cruisers, and that unmistakable potato exhaust note. And yet there it was, unveiling a bike that looks sleek, sophisticated, futuristic, and liquid-cooled. Even more shocking, the engine was co-engineered with Porsche. They called it the V-Rod, and it was meant to drag Harley-Davidson into the 21st century. For Harley, this wasn't just a new motorcycle, it was a statement, risky one. Harley wanted to prove it could perform, not just nostalgia. But by the time production quietly ended in 2017, the V-Rod was gone without fanfare, almost as if the company wanted everyone to forget it ever happened. But the V-Rod story is far more important than its sales numbers suggest. The V-Rod didn't appear out of nowhere. The idea of modern Harley goes all the way back to the late 1970s, when Harley-Davidson was staring down a serious problem. Japanese manufacturers like Honda and Yamaha were building motorcycles that were faster, smoother, and far more reliable. Compared to them, Harley's old-school pushrod engines were starting to look ancient. Inside Harley, a group of engineers began dreaming big, really big. They imagined a future built around liquid cooling, overhead cams, and modern manufacturing. This secret effort became known as Project Nova, a plan for an entire family of modern engines ranging from small commuters to massive performance machines. It was bold, maybe too bold. In 1981, after a management buyout, Harley pulled the plug on Project Nova. The company needed stability, not moonshots. Instead, it doubled down on the safer evolution engine and focused on survival. Nova was shelved, but never forgotten. Fast forward to the 1990s. Harley was thriving again, but the cracks were back. Younger riders wanted speed, emissions regulations were tightening, and air-cooled engines were hitting their limits. Once again, Harley had to ask itself an uncomfortable question. What happens when tradition isn't enough anymore? That's when the spirit of Project Nova returned, and this time, Harley went shopping for help. Harley knew it couldn't do this alone. Designing a high-revving, liquid-cooled performance engine from scratch wasn't in its comfort zone. Porsche, on the other hand, lived and breathed that kind of engineering. The result was the Revolution engine. On paper, it looked nothing like a traditional Harley motor. 1,131 cubic centimeters displacement, 60-degree V-twin, liquid cooling, dual overhead cams, a redline close to 9,000 RPM, and the output? Around 115 horsepower, a number that would have sounded like science fiction to Harley riders just a few years earlier. But the shock wasn't just technical, the V-Rod looked different too. An aluminum frame wrapped tightly around the engine, a long wheelbase, a low seat, a drag bike stance. This thing looked like a concept bike that accidentally escaped into production. From an engineering standpoint, Harley had finally built a genuinely world-class performance motorcycle. But that achievement came at a cost. The bike was expensive to develop, expensive to build, and expensive to maintain. Dealers needed special tools and training. Still, the company believed it was worth it. The V-Rod was supposed to attract new riders without abandoning the badge. It was a balancing act. And that's where things started to unravel. The V-Rod didn't just look different, it felt different. Traditional Harleys deliver instant torque. You crack the throttle and the bike surges forward at low RPM, shaking the whole machine in the process. The Revolution engine? Not so much. It liked to rev. Real power showed up past 4,000 RPM. For sport bike riders, that was familiar. For die-hard Harley fans, it felt wrong. Worse still, it didn't sound like a Harley. The iconic rumble was gone, replaced by a smoother, higher-pitched exhaust note. To many loyalists, the V-Rod felt less like an evolution and more like a betrayal. Harley tried to fix this by expanding the lineup. The street rod aimed for sharper handling. The night rod special leaned into dark, aggressive styling and became the most popular variant. The V-Rod muscle added bulk and visual drama. Each version improved something, but none fixed the core problem. The bike sat in an awkward middle ground, too futuristic for traditional Harley buyers, and not quite extreme enough for hardcore performance riders. The deeper issue wasn't horsepower or styling, it was identity. Harley-Davidson had spent decades carefully crafting an image built on freedom, rebellion, and Americana. The V-Rod disrupted that story. Internally, it complicated dealer operations. Externally, it confused customers. And then there was the price. Because of its complexity and Porsche involvement, the V-Rod wasn't cheap. Meanwhile, rivals like Suzuki, Yamaha, and Triumph were selling brutally powerful muscle bikes for less money, and often with better straight-line performance. Sales started strong, driven by curiosity and hype, but they steadily declined. The V-Rod became a bike people admired, but didn't actually buy. By 2017, it was over. Officially, the V-Rod was killed by Euro 4 emissions regulations. Unofficially, it just didn't make financial sense to keep going. Updating the Revolution engine to meet new standards would have required massive investment, and the sales numbers simply didn't justify it. Harley returned its focus to heritage models that better aligned with its brand identity. The V-Rod disappeared, without a farewell tour, without a celebration. But if you look at the bigger picture, calling the V-Rod a failure is not fair, because the Revolution engine didn't die with it. Everything Harley learned, liquid cooling, DOHC layouts, modern materials, directly influenced the Revolution Max engine family. That engine now powers bikes like the Pan America and the Sportster S, machines that successfully blend modern performance with Harley character. In other words, the V-Rod was sort of a test lab Harley, a bridge between the past and the future. It taught Harley how far it could push innovation and where it needed to respect its identity. Today the V-Rod has a cult following. Custom builders love it, collectors respect it, and many riders now see it for what it was, one of the boldest chapters in Harley-Davidson history. It was a bike that asked a dangerous question. What if the future doesn't sound like the past? The answer wasn't easy, but without the V-Rod, Harley might never have found it.